All right.
All right, let's do it. You're going to get started.
Talk to you later.
All right, hey, I'm Dom. I'm going to give a quick talk, a little workshop about Replicate and Flux One. Flux One is an image generation model. Some of you might have heard parts of this before, but it's gotten much easier to train those models on yourself or on your pictures. So I'm going to give a quick rundown on how that works now. The application or the website that I'm using is Replicate. Replicate is a hoster of AI models, a little bit like Hugging Face, if you're familiar with those. That one. So that's you can host your model there, and you can also run it there. So you essentially pay by the hour of CPU time, which in the end for Flux comes down to a few cents per picture, and like training costs depends a bit on how many photos you upload, but the training costs essentially are about $3 for 10 pictures, using 10 or 20 pictures, something like that. It's really cheap. So there is a project called FluxDev LoRa Trainer. So in AI models, LoRa's, forgot what it actually stands for, but yeah. But so they're essentially add-ons that you can load into your model to know about something specific. And in the case with Flux, we want to generate pictures, so we load that in. I'm going to show that more or less live in a moment. But this is the selection of photos, or a selection of photos that I've used. So it's not that I've used high quality photos. This is like a lot of selfies, a lot of training things from recent trips. So you probably get even better results if you use like better photos. They don't necessarily have to be studio quality, but I was just doing a test, and what came out was very good. This is one example. As a pirate, I have a little pirate connection as well. All right, let's get started, and we're going to go back into the prompt. Get out of this one. There we go. So to log into to Replicate, you need a GitHub account. They don't do any other authentication method, but you go to GitHub and set up a user if you don't have one. And then you go to FluxDev LoRa Trainer, and essentially just follow the instructions here. So we need to select we need to give it a model. So this is the bucket where things will go in. If you start from scratch, then this will be empty. These are all the tests that I did. So in this case, I'm going to go and say create a new model. LAAI mobile test. I'm going to make this private. Then the input images, this needs to be a zip file, and I already created one before, yeah. So this is just 5 pictures. The minimum I think is 5. You get much better results with more pictures. So my regular one, I think that I used for myself, I used like 15 or 20 pictures. It takes longer to train, so for the brevity here, I'm just going to use this one. I'm just going to drag this over. And then we need to choose a trigger word. So that it comes up with talk. I like Mr. Dom. And this is what the model should associate with this set of images that we load. So we need to give it a name. So if you would use cat or dog, that will probably not be great because the model already knows about cats and dogs, and it associates something with that term using your name in a variation that is clear that this isn't a tag or whatever. Just choose something that is more or less unique. And we can leave that with auto caption. We don't really have to do anything. You can say, so there's an iterative process with the models, but you can really just leave all of that just be. If you know more about Hugging Face and are much more technical, you can also copy the data onto Hugging Face at the end, but you don't need to do that anymore, or don't need to do that at all. It used to be you had to set up on Hugging Face, and then you just go create training. Oh, that does not like a space, so create training. And now it's essentially starting up a process. It's queued currently. It's running on a NVIDIA A100 with 8 gigabytes of memory. And so this is going to take a moment, right? And once, it might seem to be a bit busy today, usually it starts more or less instantly, but we can go over here and use this one. This one is, I've done this one last time when I gave this talk over in Fairhope. So at the end of this training session, you end up on this page. Essentially, this is your model that you trained. And now it's just a prompt, right? The thing is, you have to put your tag in again, otherwise it's just going to create a generic picture, potentially with you in it, but you really want to give it a prompt, and it also highlights it, and also by now it tells you that this model was trained with a prompt like this. In a coffee shop, sipping a latte, watching out the window. I could give it some an input image and image mask if you want to be more specific, but I'm just going to go with this. Go ahead, run, and now we see it's running. That's what the trick.
While that's happening, one thing I've had a lot of success with is going over to another AI, either ChatGPT or Claude, and having it write a prompt for me.
Yeah, I add that. That's the next slide. That's okay. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I guess that's kind of me from a slide profile. That was a bit unexpected. There is a second person in there, but whatever. Bad prompting, right?
It's the moon.
Well, it's more like Tatooine because it looks like two suns.
Yeah.
So interesting.
There's a planet.
Yeah. I wonder where that is. Let's go and see if this still hasn't started or it's not refreshing. Cute.
Will that continue to work when you navigate away?
Hi?
Will that continue to work when you navigate away?
Yeah. Yeah. So what Kai was hinting at before, we'll go here and go to slideshow. What I use generally for image generation prompts like this, but this applies also for other applications. I have a project in Claude that has this as a preset prompt. So you're an expert in creating prompts for the Flux image generator. After this initial chat, wait for me to give you a prompt. Whatever input I give you, make it into a professional image prompt. Give me 3 different versions of the prompt, and the prompt is always to start with the subject I want to see. In this case, it is Mr. Dom. So you can copy that and use that in your own setup. But if we go over to Claude, if we go in here into the project settings, this is the prompt that I have here. And now let's go back here. Let's copy the prompt that I gave it. Put it in here. And without much further ado, this is actually also talking about like depth of field and things like that. And if you don't like something or want something specific to be in there, you can also ask Claude to update the prompt. So now I have this. I go in here, place it. I run the new prompt. And so each of these runs cost a couple of cents. So the most expensive part is doing the training, which is about the demo gods, yeah. Yeah.
Is that, I can't see, is that just you as a woman?
No, definitely not.
Okay.
I don't know who that is.
I wouldn't date him as a woman, and I'd ask her out.
Let's go. 2 weeks ago.
So do you use these images for your work, or I don't know if you're exactly what you do, but
So I run a small consultancy helping small and medium businesses in applying AI or learning about AI.
so are you helping the companies create new images to put on the website, graphics, things like that with this, or?
Yeah, so hi, how are you? I'm not necessarily like helping them to like create images for their website. I teach them on how they can use things like that. I use those pictures for myself. So this is not going anywhere here right now, but the demo goes dashboard.
Let me know when you're ready for my beginner questions.
Okay.
Prefacing.
There we go.
Building up a list.
Yeah.
That's my preface.
Yeah, so I have like pictures of myself in suits and it's something is triggering this. Mr. Dom as a pilot. That usually works. Let's try this again. So yeah, it's more about using that. Like you can also train that rather with yourself. You could train that with pictures of a product. So if you make a product, the next best drink can or coffee mug, you can train it on that, and then you can do product placement of your product in like professional looking photos without going out there, and like you could potentially even use a render, and then you don't even have to make the product in the first place. You can just go and generate photos of it before it even exists. All right, one more try. Otherwise, something is broken today. if that doesn't work. But yeah, generally with the prompts from Claude, they're much more detailed. They talk about photography aspects of it, and like you can steer it. So if you need to build if you need to improve a prompt for something, it's always good to take the prompt, and that can even be a prompt for writing an essay about something. Take the prompt, put it into Claude or ChatGPT and say, improve this prompt, and then run the improved prompt. That often has, there we go. that is a little bit more along the lines of the prompt. Yeah, so going back to this, so that was a prompt. The prompt was here: grubby pirate on the bow of the tall ship, zoomed out full body view. Didn't really follow those rules either, and then I gave it to Claude, and it made it much more appealing. Still not quite full body view, but yeah, still a big work in progress. You had more questions?
Yeah, man. All right. Here we go. All right, activating my account now on Replicate. All right, so is this code with passion thing I was saying?
Yeah.
Is that what I'm supposed to find on Replicate?
No.
I think I
You
missed
want
one.
to find this one.
Ostrus, okay.
Ostrus flux lower depth.
For anyone that's interested, we have handouts at the back that
Nice.
go through this, so you
Yeah.
can follow them.
Nice.
Yeah. And the last, on my last slide, there is a QR code with the PDF. So.
Very cool.
But yeah, so this is the train. Code with Passion is my GitHub handle. Therefore, everything's called Code with Passion.
And one thing I can say from a practical application use that I would think of here is recently, so my sister got married in, we'll call it 2007, something like that, and there was a photographer there. The photographer freaked out and took crappy photos, so all we have is like some disposable camera bad lighting photos. So I tried to go use some different software for it. I'm a CPA, I'm not an expert in any of this. It didn't really do much of anything, but I'm seeing this is what I imagined whenever I went in and said, all right, let me take these blurry photos and see if I can create something that is these scenes within that just fix them. Essentially fix the photos. Even though they're not real photos, I want to capture the scene with it, and I could absolutely see this.
You definitely could try to recreate something.
Right.
There is I think Topaz Labs.
Yeah, there's a couple of professional restorative like AI services out there meant for what you're talking about. Whereas this is more like you're tailoring your generation images to like what your subject is, right? So in this case, it's photos of him. He wants to create more photos of him. But in your case, you might look for a restorative like this one before you go into.
Yeah. Which one is that?
Gigapixels.
So this is Topaz Labs.
I did end up with one of those, and
There's a couple of them.
Yeah.
It's here or there.
Oh, there we go. The cover.
Yeah, I forget what the one I had was. It ended up like one of those.
I've also uploaded photos to Claude or ChatGPT and say, describe this photo in exacting detail.
Yeah.
And then use that, whatever it described, back into Flux to put me in the scene, but everything else would stay relatively the same.
Right, so take this photo in great detail, then you couple that with some pictures of people's faces that are actually in that, and then say the font. That's what I had in mind whenever I said offline, but that was, I don't know what to do.
And if you want that, the piece of paper in electronic form, you can scan this. Otherwise, feel free to reach out on Discord or LinkedIn.
So are you like, are you setting up an API key? Or are you using their information? Like, how are you paying for it? How do I?
Oh, so how do we pay for this?
Yeah.
You go. Oh, look, my training is finally training. You go in here and then I don't remember.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I do see
Account settings, billing. You add. So I'm probably still running off a few, still about
Got it.
$2
Okay.
credit
Yeah.
that I got, 5 months ago when you could get credits for them. But now if you sign up now and you don't get the credit, then you put your card in, and then I think it's like billing intervals of, but you don't have to pay a subscription, you pay as you go.
Got it. So it's like pay per use basically.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
But that's pretty common with a lot of APIs
Yeah.
across the board. Is you add credits, and then when your function calls don't work, they're like, hey,
Yeah.
top it up.
Need more cash.
Yeah.
Need more cash.
But you don't need to create an API key or API token. That's only needed if you call it from the API. So if you build a website, if you build your own product and you want to create pictures out of that, then you would get an API key to put in to do the call. So
I like the model though, that prepaid, because then when you quit,
yeah.
You don't sell with it month after month.
Yeah.
So,
So like for the developers here, if you would want to call this this model via curl or via an HTTP request, this might go over some people's head. That's okay.
Yep.
This is
started there.
this is how you call the initiation to create the image, and then you have to go and check. You get like a job ID, and then you go back and you have to check until the job is done, and then you can download the image.
and Dom, I'm not sure you talk about it, but like for product placement, if you have a product, you can do the same thing. It doesn't have to be a person.
Yeah.
You can have a picture of your product and generate lots of different images of your product in different scenes for your website.
Yeah. Cool.
Thanks, Dom.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
All right, next up is Kyle, who will be talking about coding with AI.
Hey, just
Anyone that has coding ideas? Is there any manual coding? Is there any manual coding anywhere?
There is. Yeah, actually, funny, a buddy of mine texted me a couple of days ago. He works for a Fortune 500 company, and so Microsoft and GitHub came in with their dog and pony show, showing off the new features of Copilot.
Yeah.
And he's skeptical. And he said the demo was clunky and everything. I'm like, well, I'm like GitHub Copilot, right? But I did check out GitHub Copilot this week, and I kicked the tires on. And if you know how to use these tools effectively, and if you know what you're getting into, so for like GitHub Copilot, that's a code assistant, right? It's not gonna, it doesn't have like a composer or a YOLO mode. But real quickly, who in here is a coder or software engineer, programmer? Okay.
new.
All right.
New.
And, cool. So we're a minority, but for the non-coders, this will still be interesting because you can learn about automation as well as the limits of AI. So if someone's selling like a $700 course, like build your $1 million SaaS product in like 10 minutes, you need to know what's BS. Let's do entire screen. Okay. All right. And sorry, I've been sick as a dog the past week, so I did not create any nice slides or anything to give you all, but look me up on LinkedIn. My name is Kyle Bustard, K-Y-L-E, and Bustard is like mustard, but with a B as in Bravo. And if you message me, just remind me, I can send you any of the files or takeaways on here. And there's a couple of tools that I'm going to, and this is going to be very high level across maybe 3 different tools. I've mentioned GitHub Copilot. I'm not going to get into that, but I'm going to show a couple of tools. The first step in building your application or your online business digital software is planning. And the more planning you can get upfront, especially with these AI tools, it's going to save you a lot of time, a lot of pain, and a lot of money as well. So, ideally, you would start with ChatGPT or Claude, and maybe create some personas. Like here, I'm going to prompt Claude or Claude for our Canadian friends. To create some personas that will review my app before I even start with it. I already know what I want to build, right? And so they're going to say, this is a dumb idea, but I'm going to do it anyways. Create a few personas who can consult with my new app. I'm thinking I need a product manager, designer, software architect, cyber security or CISO, security expert. What are some other personas?
Database admin.
Say it again?
Database expert.
A device expert?
Database.
Database expert. QA, good one. QA or quality assurance or testers.
And always forgotten.
Legal, that's a good one too. So this is where I'll start. We've got our personas, and I'm going to tell you my idea. My wife likes to try out recipes from the New York Times, and she tried out a shrimp pasta salad, and we ate it for lunch today. And I'll just say that if you get too close to me, you're going to smell a lot of onions and garlic. And so I learned not to trust the New York Times. That was some fake news with that recipe. And then, only then did we discover that there's actually ratings that you can see, right? So my idea is a sort of recipe website, maybe a directory of recipes that are ranked or rated according to the level of onioniness.
Like, that's good word.
Okay, my idea is a website with cooking recipes ranked according to level of onioniness, considering that many will find too many onions to be gross. Please review my plan with the personas. Okay, what is Sylvia Shannon, the product manager? This is an interesting niche. Okay, I see. The thing about AI is they're usually very positive and they will agree with you, even if it's a bad idea. Like, I really do think that this website's a bad idea. I mean, maybe one of you are savvy enough and have enough business acumen to make it work, not me. So before you sink a bunch of time or money or effort into your next.
Claude's probably the most positive too.
What was that?
Claude's probably the most positive
Yeah.
too, probably.
Yeah, you'll definitely want to get a gut check from an actual person and say, no, that's not a good idea. Okay. Oh, a project manager. That would have been another good one. But I'm not going to read through all of these. But it's nice to have it here, and especially the project manager. And you definitely want to use Claude or ChatGPT to be your project manager for your app that you're coding up. And the next step is we're going to build some basic UI, some user interfaces. And let me show you what we have here. There's this option called bolt.new. I never paid for bolt.new because you can get plenty of free messages. I think like 10 a day, and you know, I'm not building like an app every day, so I don't really hit that limit. Okay, so what was my app idea? I'm gonna copy my input that I gave Claude. Build this idea into an app. Okay, what did Bolt.new say? Building a cooking recipe website. Okay, that's just what I said. Onion recipe ranking website. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so my coders out here, you can probably see that they just defaulted to using React and Vite. I tried to use as much as the defaults as possible, but there is friction that arises because a lot of these models are trained on old software. The software may be deprecated, or it may have some breaking changes, so they'll say install this software, install this library, and then it starts to build and it breaks because there's breaking changes. And let me see the preview feature, no preview available. Okay, it's taken a minute because it's installing all the dependencies, it's scaffolding up some code quickly. All right, what do we have here? Onion Raider. Find recipes based on onion intensity. Not everyone loves onions equally. Okay. And look at this. Bolt just gave us all these images. I don't know where they come from.
It's luxurious.
All right.
Oh man, that oniony chocolate base.
Okay. Barely any onions. All right. Now,
There's still too many.
there's, you can see I'm trying to click that bookmark, but it's not saving. So there's not much logic. There's not much data that's being processed or managed here. But that's something that we can fix later in a different ID. I can edit the code directly here if I wanted to. Let's see. But there's no need for that. And I'm going to switch over to a similar product to Bolt.new. Now, I'll go ahead and mention here that I haven't done this, but you can create full stack apps in Bolt.new. They even have support for Supabase. And this blue deploy button, once your app is working, and if you want to deploy that and share that with the world, then it does deploy to Netlify. Because I think Netlify and Bolt.new and StackBlitz, they're all.
Those are temporary posted websites where they have like a really long string.
Oh yeah.
Like a kind of temporary.
Yes, but I think there's some permanence with, like you can't,
I mean, it's not like
you can't add a custom domain to it. But even though,
Netlify you can.
really,
Yeah, I run an app, like a full stack app off of Netlify, so it's a custom domain. So
Yeah.
it's there permanently, basically tied to GitHub.
Yep, and we used to use StackBlitz to build like little React apps and.
Yeah, that's who owns Bolt.
Yep. And even though I haven't paid a dime for this, they do save my chats. There you go. So there's some sci-fi trivia game homepage that I made. So it's got to rebuild and I think install those dependencies again. But I'm going to skip over to VO or V0. That's not it. V0. It's sort of a competitor to that ecosystem that we were just at, Bolt and Netlify. There's Vercel. Vercel owns Next.js, which is a very popular framework for developers, React developers. And what I'm going to do at V0 is I'm going to paste that I'm going to paste my same prompt that I gave Bolt. Build my app onion idea, the Onion website. Okay, so you can see that V0 thought for 6 seconds. Let's plan out a recipe website. They thought about the project structure. They thought about styling, images and media, frameworks and libraries. I don't think Bolt did this. I mean, they did think about it, but I don't think they output the text like that. And let's see. Let me look at the preview. Okay, preview's not ready yet. Now, I'll say something about this. In the code, now again, I haven't paid for this, and in the code, they only give like the components code. They don't give the package.json file, which lists all the dependencies, all the libraries used, which I think is interesting. Whereas Bolt gives you all the code that you would need. All the config codes. Okay, let's see if this preview is ready. Not yet. Serious about this. What I like about V0 is they will use the latest versions of popular web dev technologies like React, Next.js, TypeScript, Tailwind, ShadCN. They're training their models on this. I don't know how often, but probably like anytime there's a big release. So they're a little bit more up to date than Bolt.
Right, I think V0 is like heavily going the Next.js route because it's from Vercel, which is also the creator of Next.
Right.
Which doesn't have to be.
The thing you did earlier was laying out like the framework. Can you access that and like copy that? Because in theory, can you like take that and maybe add notes to it? Like take it, use it as an idea, and be like, oh, that's
Are you talking about here in V0?
Yeah. Like earlier, you were like, oh, it's thinking through like the project outline. I'm just curious if you can like get that data, the project structure and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. Like if you want to like add some information to it.
Yeah, probably.
Look like you forgot it.
Yeah, or you could say, I don't like it, something went wrong. Okay, so V0 just crashed.
It's my fault.
This, yes, totally broke fault. That's okay, where's my rerun button? Try again. Okay, V0 is thinking.
Another one that I learned about is called Lovable.
Yeah.
What is it?
Lovable.
Lovable?
Same thing as Bolt. It's a lot more like Bolt.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, but-
5% attendees, very similar. There's products out there, and there's some things you can do locally yourself if you don't feel like you want your data out there on the cloud. There's lots of options for AI coding engines.
Not for us. Us being not the others, being language
No, I mean, it's on YouTube. You can look at the
No.
It's public information.
I know. Well, no. I understand it. I understand it's accessible. I'm with you.
we have so many resources nowadays for free.
Yeah.
I can even fix a car sometimes.
I fixed my bathroom door.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, it was a great situation. So I put a piece of cardboard in the hinge. I was like, sweet, got it. Bam, closed perfectly. Yeah, 100%.
I used to get $50 a tip for that.
Yeah.
That was a locksmith for 15 years.
Mild onion soup. All right. Okay. V0 can be kind of slow. Okay, there's a config file.
Yeah, I think they, which we yesterday, they set it up so that you can publish those sprigs personally.
Say it again.
You can publish V0 creation sprigs personally.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so they compete with both local. So you can take that and make it a website right away that you didn't visit because it was no person.
Yeah.
Spend $20 a month.
Yeah. For sale, these are great for like developers who are like solopreneurs like me, like one-man show who has to do it all, and we can do something called a serverless architecture where we don't have to manage as much infrastructure for our apps. We just build the functionality for our users. And Vercel has an integration with Supabase for a database, same as Bolt.new and Netlify. Okay, let's look what we have here. Let's look at the code. Okay, interesting. Feature recipes, browse all recipes. Okay, so there's some functionality there. They've got more than one page. They've got a recipes page. And, okay, that's pretty nice. Which one did y'all prefer? The V0 UI or the Bolt UI?
Bolt looks nice, but as a developer, I want V0 one.
Yeah.
A lot faster than that.
Yeah, and I will, and you can also,
Why is that? Sorry.
It's
Why is that
not
easy?
much there. It's very
Oh,
much
it's simple.
just
Okay.
what you need, what you ask for, and no extra frills.
Got
So
it.
you can start adding the frills yourself.
Got it.
okay. You know, we
Exactly.
can say add a search bar. Okay, I'll add a search bar value. User says search for recipes by name. Okay, I wonder if it's going to run stream each file again or just the files that need to be.
Yeah, it's looking at it. It's not doing anything. It's looking at it. Zoom through it.
Okay, where's that search bar?
Give it the browse on. Get it finished.
Okay, I don't see the search bar anywhere, dude.
Try going to the other page.
The other page?
Yeah.
Go, scroll down.
There it
There
is.
it is.
Bam!
Okay, let's see.
Nice.
Oh, that's cool.
Wow.
Nice. Okay, and we see it has like all the nice icons. I forget what the name it is, but this is using Chatzian UI for the components, which is a very convenient and quick way to build apps. So that's what's nice about it. They also have other features, like they've got templates. I don't know. Here it is. No, that's not it.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Can you combine the two things we've talked about so far today and take a picture of a website in the format that you like and somehow get this to build a website that looks like the picture that you took and create a question?
Yeah, you can, we can take screenshots, and this is UI that's available from the community in V0, but you can drop screenshots into V0 and probably Bolt. You can even hand draw them. You can draw a mobile UI and take a picture of it, upload it, and it will, using Tailwind CSS and these components, it'll create the UI like that.
Or literally, if you find a website, a SaaS website that like, oh, I like this idea. This is talking about dog parks, but I want it about beer gardens, like a rating website. You could just say, take a screenshot, like, hey, make me one of these, but make it for beer gardens. And without like too much work, you would get a directory website. Well, I mean, you still need to find the data, but that's.
And maybe we can find out later whether that's legal or not.
Inspiration.
I'm coming up on time. I don't know if I'm going to have time to get to a cursor coding demonstration. Did y'all have any questions or any more concerns? I mean, this is good input.
Maybe a couple of additions. One is replit.com. I've been playing around with that one. Creates fairly good. If you go down the route of like Next.js and React, it's doing a really good job. I haven't tested their other things for like you can do API backends and things, but it has a database integration as well, and also the whole deployment chain. So it's very easy to very quickly like deploy an API and the website to it.
I'd say Replit is probably the one, especially if you wanted to just get something off the ground and into somebody's hands as quickly as possible. Replit's faster because they never like no build out of Replit is not already on the internet for somebody else to look at. It's like you can integrate inside of like everything else and not have it on the internet, but immediately when you open up that first prompt and then your list Replit run, it's on the internet right away, and whatever you see on your development side is also what's in production. There's no separation. So like you have to do that separation yourself. If you want it, it's not great when it's out there.
And then the other one, the other addition is that Anthropic just 2 days ago, with their Claude 3.7 release, released a Claude code, which is not a website, but it's a command line tool essentially. I haven't been playing around with it too much, but it's like Claude is doing a really good job in coding, and this is essentially kind of a command line version of code of Claude that also knows about your files and like goes and can make new directories and changes and like interact with your code base directly.
So of all those we mentioned, like what's the Venn diagram of these? I mean, do they overlap a good bit? Like, you know, you mentioned Lovable, Replit, whatever.
They're going to be the same technologies under the hood, because they're going to be utilizing several large language models that they get through API endpoints.
Right.
And then they're going to be utilizing some kind of framework and virtualization to run the code and do the code and do the things. It's just, at this point, it's going to be personal preference. I know he mentioned some are more native to like legacy style code, like traditional tech stacks, whereas some of these might be liking the new frameworks. It would just depend. But for someone who maybe doesn't know, just try one.
Take one and give it over.
That would be my thing. But if you're someone who's particular or something, then you might have your own taste of things. But
Yeah. Cool. Good feedback.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Now for the non-technical part of the show.
I'll tell you why. It's not super complicated. I'll just
All right. If you'd like his LinkedIn, I already made the slide for him, so feel free to take a picture of that. Good. So we're going to go through. So there's already been great 2 workshops, and afterwards, Ted in the back is our resident lawyer, and he's going to talk about intellectual property in AI. So I think it works really well with app building and what we can actually, what we can patent and what we can't. A couple of quick things. This will be up on our website. If anyone wants to sign up for the newsletter, just sort of event announcements, that is the QR code there. And I'll let people take a picture of that. I want to start with a couple of announcements. Some cool stuff happened. Yes, sir. Oh, yep. You got it. So, we're now official. So, Lower Alabama AI is now a registered nonprofit in the state of Alabama, and we filed our paperwork with the IRS to be a 501c3. At the same time, there's been new branding thanks to Content Fresh. Deb Salisbury's team developed a new logo for us, and there's a new website. There's also a shop. And so if anyone wants any cool LA AI gear, you can go to our website. It's all there. Full transparency. Everything is marked up 25%. And that is all the proceeds go to fund things like this. So we hope to sort of grow this organization, get more into education in general, and that's where this money will go. That's why we decided on making it a nonprofit. The goal here is never to sort of make money. The goal here is to sort of raise the tide of AI in Lower Alabama. So, and it was really interesting going through the incorporation process. I had AI take me through the entire thing, step by step. Every time I hit a question, I just put it into AI and said, hey, the IRS is asking about this. And they said, oh, check this box. Like, you're going to do this and this and this. It already has a lot of background on our organization, so it kind of knew what we were up to.
So now it's taking my job, isn't it?
Well, we're going to talk about that. But anyway, so that's good. So we'll jump right into the news. For folks that are new here, we do some workshops and sort of general news, and then a featured speaker at the end. So following on to Kyle's stuff, so Google just released their Gemini Code Assist. What was remarkable about this is the number of completions that they give you for free, 180,000, 90 times more than any of their competitors. So if coding with AI is something that you'd like to do, Gemini, they're making a real pitch right now to use their platform. And so it's pretty good. Like, so I will say it's not like both of the ones we saw. You have to have more understanding of the code and what you want to have happen, but there's a lot of code completion stuff. There's been a lot of stuff that's happened this week, and so as Don pointed out, I even left something off, which is OpenAI released 4.5 last night or yesterday. They sort of snuck it in. It's getting mixed reviews. I think that this is the sort of the interim step to ChatGPT 5, which is what they really consider the AGI model, the big one. This is this interim step. It's their largest model that they've ever trained, and they're using sort of a very traditional pre and post training methodology for this. And they've done it without a lot of fanfare, and I think that that's one of the reasons that I think they know that it's not this spectacular beast, and so they just sort of slipped it out. Everyone got an email saying, hey, this is something going to start to show up. What is more interesting is deep research. So deep research has been out for a little while, but it's now becoming available to the general public. If you're a Plus user, meaning you spend $20, or even free users, they're giving free queries to. So as a Plus user, you get 10 queries a month. So my experience in it has been remarkable. I've used it 3 times to create 3 different sort of papers effectively. Each paper has been roughly 30 pages of high quality content. So I'm on a board of a nonprofit up in Boston, and we needed sort of a marketing strategy. It was pretty bad. So I had Claude write a prompt for me to put into deep research. Deep research takes 10 minutes or so, something like that. It goes out, it sourced 108 sources, and it came back with the most detailed marketing plan I think I've ever seen. It was really remarkable, and it wasn't there wasn't one page where I was like, oh, this is crap. It was like, oh, that's really interesting. It found things that are associated with this nonprofit that I thought there's no way they're going to find this. I was very surprised. And so my experience with deep research has been it's really good. I covet the queries now because you're only given 10, and so like I don't want to waste them, and so I'm thinking really hard about like, okay, what am I going to use this thing on, right? And so, and I know online there's sort of almost a trading community. If you go into Reddit, into the ChatGPT subreddit, people are saying like, hey, I'll burn one of my queries for you if you give me a good topic. You know, there's this like a bit of a barter system for these. But anyway, so you know, ChatGPT 4.5, cool. Like we'll all end up using it. This is a bit of a game changer for writing very high quality content. At the same time, Anthropic released 3.7, so Cloud, as my business partner in Canadian calls it, and I correct him every time. But Cloud 3.7 Sonnet came out, and so this is a hybrid model. So what that means is that traditional models like ChatGPT, they didn't do a lot of thinking. You asked a question, it gave you an answer back based on all of its knowledge. Then there was this rise of thinking or reasoning models, where they would actually think about what you were asking and correct itself before it answered you. So just like a human doesn't, you know, when you're responding to someone, you think about like, well, I don't want to say that because this might, you know, and you go through this thing. These models now do that. So Claude is really kind of the last one to come out with their thinking model. And so they have, they call it a hybrid, so there's two different modes you can check, so you're thinking or not. It is, I will say this, I use Claude a lot for coding stuff, and 3.7 does a very weird thing where it goes, it's agentic, so it tries to just do everything for you. I've noticed like, so I use it in Cursor, and it's starting to update all my files for me without me accepting stuff. It's just like, yep, we're gonna change all that. I'm like, no, back. So I've noticed online a lot of people are switching back to 3.5 for coding because it's getting a little out over its skis about what it wants to do for you. But I will say, you know, the Claude model is a very sort of high-end, like a lot of, you know, I think a lot of people in this room use it. And 3.7 is their latest and greatest. I think for general queries, it's really good. For coding, it's been a little bit rough. Not to get done, Amazon has just released Alexa Plus. So what is behind this Alexa Plus? So Amazon's a big investor into Anthropic's Claude. So they put a couple $2 billion into them and own a decent chunk of Anthropic. And they also have their own model called Nova. And so behind Alexa Plus is a combination of Nova and Claude. And so this will be rolling out throughout March, I believe. It's $20, or if you're a Prime member, you're going to get it for free, whether you want it or not. So the big challenge and what's been impressive is that it's all backwards compatible. Like they're going to support all of their previous devices except for the oldest ones. Some of the features in it are going to be that you don't have to say Alexa to it all the time. You can carry on a conversation. But really where they're trying to position it, and in the demo that I watched, it was about like online ordering and food stuff. So you can say, make a reservation for me. It will use OpenTable. It will call a restaurant sort of in the background with a reservation, Grubhub, things like that. So, you know, it's going to take a little while for me to get comfortable with having Alexa actually do stuff on my behalf, because I can see it go totally sideways on me in order to, you know, many pizzas or many different reservations or stuff ordered at restaurants I don't like.
Refurnish your house.
Yeah. I'm going to get a lot of Amazon packages. And the problem is I'm not going to know the difference because I already do. So there's just going to be more Amazon stuff showing up. But anyway, so that came out. And so I think what's interesting is that we now have a bunch of models. In fact, there's way more than this, but there was a pretty good write-up on the different versions. So Grok is something that I don't pay for, so I don't play with it very much. The people that do are saying it's really, really good. So Grok 3 just came out. That's the Twitter X model, and it's doing very well. So the way that they test all these models are on these different benchmark tests. And so a big one, and Ted, you and I were talking about sort of math earlier. So you have the math benchmark, and you have the math 500. Right? They sound very similar. The difference is the math benchmark is based on advanced high school math, going up through pre-calculus. But it's basically for elite mathematics competitions in high school. The Math 500 includes calculus and problem solving, and so they're different. So Grok does a very good job. You can see it got a 93.3% on high school math, like elite high school math, way above my level of math. I am not an elite mathematician by any means. ChatGPT 03 Mini did extremely well, almost 100% on math problem solving. So basically, it can ingest very complex word problems and solve them. So just so when you see these benchmarks, it's always weird because there's two math ones on there. They're testing different things. You can see this idea of reasoning, and so you see, so in the reasoning accuracy, the recently released Claude 3.7 on the extended thinking mode, that sort of thinking that we were talking about, did a very good job. And Gemini's working at it. So if people are interested, this is where this data comes from. I think I actually have it over here. It's a little easier. So you can go over here, and this is a group that tests a lot of these things. And so one thing they can do is, so you can do these side-by-side, or what they call battles, where you can pick different models to test, and then you give it a prompt, and it will test it on both, and then you pick which one you like better. And that's how they come up with their leaderboard, right? So it's a real-world test. They're trying to sort of crowdsource the testing of this. But basically, and there's a number. If you go to the leaderboard, you can find out which one's good for coding, for prompts, for longer queries, English. I'll send this out. Creative writing. And so if we're in creative writing, sorry if you can't see this, Grok 3.0 is the leader. Right now, Grok is leading most of the leaderboards. But Chat 4.0 is the leader. Then Grok, if we go to, so that's creative writing. If we go to coding, Grok 3.0, then Gemini, then Claude, right? So that means that people who are putting code samples in there feel like Grok is doing a better job than that. So it's always interesting to watch these leaderboards, but when new models come out, this is where they end up. And this is where the numbers that you see are coming from benchmarks like this. Yes?
I've seen these sites before, and they're usually blind.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if you're going to vote on which one's best, then you pick the model that introduces a lot of bias. Do they have a section where they actually do it blind?
They do not. So you bring up a very valid point that it can get fanboys, right? And so you have a bunch of people that are really into Twitter or really into Elon Musk and go there and sort of flood it and always pick Grok. But I think empirical evidence, people that I know that have been using it sort of support that Grok is.
Well, those are the same things that are on the blind list too. I
Yes.
just didn't know there was one you could pick.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that a great way to get free access to all these things?
Yeah, a little bit. Yes, you just go there and use your prompts in there, and then get two
They do
different.
deep research on that. Game over.
Yeah, that's right. So anyway, so this is fairly interesting just to see how these are going. There's 10 big models that we can use that as consumers we have access to. This is just sort of the top 4. This is really interesting. I don't know. I got a little video here.
How can I help you today? I'm an AI agent calling on behalf of Boris Starkov. He's looking for a hotel for his wedding. Is your hotel available for weddings? Oh, hello there. I'm actually an AI assistant too. What a pleasant surprise. Before we continue, would you like to switch to gibberlink mode for more efficient communication?
So, in theory, we don't know what those machines are saying to each other, right?
Was that emergent, or was that, I mean, what I mean is that it's programmed or is this emergent?
This was programmed. So this is so somewhere someone knows what this is.
Sometimes they do emergent
Yes.
because, you know, the way we speak in our language, when that's tokenized, it can be very confusing.
Yes.
for Hong Kong.
That's right.
Whereas they might do, you know, the larger concepts rather than
Yes,
how
yes,
we speak, how we speak.
that's right. So this is developed by Meta, or sort of Facebook's owners, called Gibberlink, to make these communications much faster when two agents are talking to each other. Yes.
Something made a language?
Yes, yes. Now there's an interesting thing, and I love this story. So MIT had this problem. MIT has a big natural language lab. This is about 4 years ago or more even, and they had two competing systems, and basically these systems were making up their own languages unintentionally, right? It was to study linguistics. Then they realized that the systems were communicating with each other, and the only reason they know is that they could detect on the network patterns of call and response.
Yeah.
So one system would make a call, the other system would respond, but they had no idea what they were saying to each other. And then they were acting on it. Like they'd see CPU usage go up, they'd see all of these things that sort of mimicked human things. And the answer at the time was, pull the plug. Like, so MIT just shut it down and said, no, we have no idea what they're saying. This is not like, we've all seen, we've read the Stone Age novels before. But, not to be outdone, they've now created this. So I think what's going to happen is like, this will start to, like, the AI itself will start to develop its language. So it's very feasible that we won't know what exactly they're saying. We'll know the outcome, right? We'll know sort of like, okay, this one is an agent. It was supposed to ask about a hotel reservation. This one answered, and now I have a hotel reservation. What it said exactly may not be known.
This particular language was like this one that we created, like as people, to be able to do fast communications past like air gaps. So like,
Yes.
if you can't connect the cord between two things,
Right.
sounds as similar to like dialogue.
Yes.
But
Yes.
it's the same.
It's the same thing. It's basically just modern day dialect, right? Like the you know, sort of the tones.
This all makes me very comfortable. I just
Sure.
I
No,
feel
totally.
very
Well, I
comfortable.
think like the key is the headline. It raises fears, right? So everyone's like, hey, what are we doing here? Let's keep tabs on what the AI is saying. Like, why are we developing languages?
I don't know what any of it's saying anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know how all these buttons work.
This is interesting. So 11 Labs does a lot in voice simulation. We've talked about it a lot. They signed a big deal with Spotify to start to allow you to push out audiobooks, or authors to push out audiobooks onto Spotify's network. You can now, for free, use 11 Labs to create audiobooks and push them out onto Spotify. So if you've written a book, or if AI has written a book for you, and you would now like that to be an audiobook, 11 Labs will do that for free, and you can push it onto Spotify for you, and you just roll in the money. I think that's how that works. Perplexity. Who here uses Perplexity? Okay. Yeah. I mean, so a few people. So Perplexity is a very interesting company, I think, and they were the first basically that said we're not honoring anyone's like copyright. We're gonna scrape the web whether you let us or not. And so they have a very large database. Now they're getting into the browser situation. Or the browser industry. They're gonna release a browser, just like Chrome or Edge or Firefox or something like that. And it's, what's that?
I think it was.
Yeah, I saw it. It's not on here, but
There's something like Common or Cosmos.
yes, Common. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And it's going to be agentic. So basically, it can do things. Again, agentic just means that it can take multiple steps to get to something. So if you say, hey, I'm going to my sister's and she lives in Huntsville, like it will go out and figure out the route and be like, oh, and then you should stop here for lunch, and then you should do this and stuff like that. It'll be very interesting. We haven't had a new browser in a long time, so might be interesting. Now we get back into the sort of like the interesting, maybe dystopian thing. I don't know how many people are familiar with the idea of the singularity. So Ray Kurzweil talked about this many years ago. The singularity for him was this idea that we were going to reach a point at the event horizon where we can transfer our brains onto sort of mechanical devices and live forever, right? It's the same. So our bodies become basically replaceable parts, and as we wear down, we just sort of upgrade ourselves, right? So, but all of our knowledge just keeps going forward. So in this case, what they're talking about singularity is really super intelligence, where the AI becomes smarter than humans by quite a bit. And so this was thought so scientists always believed that this would happen somehow, that computers would get there. But it used to be 100 years from now. And now with the advent of AI, they pull that number in quite a bit. So it's now either, between the next year or 10, right, that we're going to hit that. So the AI folks think we're going to hit that in the next 12 months, that we're going to have super intelligence. And that's very interesting because we've never had anything on this planet that's been smarter than us, right? Like we're the top of the food chain, but we're actively creating things that are going to outdo that, right? And so at that point, it's uncharted territory. And so this is definitely something that, within the next decade, my 14-year-old son, he's 100% going to be dealing in his life with super intelligence, right? That there is something that's going to be considerably smarter than the smartest human on Earth. It's just an interesting concept.
I feel like we're already there, man.
Oh, listen, AI is much smarter than me, right? Like it's like,
Right.
So I think it gets to the point where we're the question is, does AI make the decisions, right? So there's this notion of human in the loop, there's a notion of human at the helm, humans are still in charge. At what point does it, a super intelligent thing be like, oh no, I mean, like you make the decision, you're much smarter, right? From all things. So following on, this isn't directly AI, it's robotics, which I tend to like. This was interesting because this robotics company has teamed up with the manufacturer, and the robots are now going to start building their own robots, right? So you couple that with a couple of other things that we've been talking about. It's really interesting. Again, we're teaching the robots how to make themselves. We're teaching the AI how to create its own language. And again, this is not a dystopian seminar here, but it's like this is really interesting and it's really going on, right? This is I think a $300 million contract was just signed with a big manufacturer for them to start producing these robots. The robots that they've already produced are the ones that are going to be on the manufacturing line, creating more robots. And so that'll be really interesting, especially when they start speaking in a language we don't fully understand. And then back to Alabama. I would like to include something that's going on locally. UAB researchers using AI for something really good, trying to figure out when students are depressed and have mental issues. This is great. I think that they're doing some groundbreaking work at UAB on this. They have a very good AI lab, and this is something that I think we're all going to need after the robots come out, and we can't understand anything. We're going to need apps that sort of help us mentally. So that is it for the news. Anything that I missed? I mean, there's plenty. These are just items of the Mike can't see. Is there anything you guys have seen that's been fun and exciting that you've used?
Hume came out with their text to voice LLM. So like, unlike the ones where like 11 Labs has you just give it text and then provide a voice, and they get that text said in that voice. What it does is that like you just provide like an idea of persona. Like you are a country radio star, and you're talking about cars, and then it just goes and it's gonna come out with a country accent. It's gonna like reflect. Hume is all about emotional intelligence, and so they make emotionally intelligent AIs. And so they're like I have a lot of demos there that they have.
And H-U-N-E?
H-U-M-E. So like all the demos on the website now, where they just put in a basic prompt and the AI is gonna start acting because it's very emotionally like tuned in.
Cool. Fun. Country star.
I say the country accent's not as good. British, any other accents work.
Okay.
Like, we inside Alabama will have this very
That's all.
We'll be
That's all.
more discerning.
Let's see. Okay, I got it.
This one gave it a script. You don't have to leave a script, but you can.
Oh, I see. Oh, I see the script down below.
Yeah. You can tell it to be angry. You can tell it to be sad. It'll act accordingly.
But eventually, if you give it time, it'll just figure out whether to be angry
Well,
or
I
sad
did
on its
declare
own.
that sunset looked like it was painted by angels themselves. All fiery oranges and soft, sweet pinks. Like a scoop of strawberry ice cream on a summer's day.
Cool.
Now tell it to do it sad.
Oh, okay.
And change the script.
Here, we want them to talk about cats. A sad British star talking about cats. All right.
Is it requiring a script for this?
Yes.
So you click a randomize and then give it the same like voice script.
Okay. Well, here, let's just see what it is. There's a Texas fishing guide.
Texas.
Late night radio. Yeah, this may be indistinguishable to us. I wonder when you would use this.
That's what it acts like. What's the use case?
This might actually be my neighbor, so that's really interesting.
So
Cool.
I didn't use this one, but I used Vappy and Living Labs.
Yep.
Frank Braxton, he had recently bought a Steam Deck.
Yeah.
So we wanted to set up a release. Frank, about 10 minutes, we got Vappy and Living Labs, so we gave Living Labs like an Indian voice, put it into Vappy, guy's phone number, put it in there, and I had ChatGPT write the prompt so that it would call him and say, hey, I'm from Steam support. We're doing some research on people who recently bought Steam Decks, and we got a $300 gift card to give you if you answer some questions. I have a transcript if you want to do whatever.
That's pretty awesome.
He sat there and talked to that thing about 15 minutes. He was thinking, he was already spending $300 in his mind. But it's pretty good. I have the
Man,
audio.
we're just like we're in for it. Don't give your money to anyone on who calls you. That's the good. Well, I want to stay on track here. Up now, we have a very special presentation. Ted Garner. Ted, this is if you're interested in connecting with Ted, that's his LinkedIn. He's going to talk a little bit about intellectual property in AI. Which I actually didn't think there was any intellectual property in AI. So. And I think, here, I can hand these out for you. You want to use this up? Thank you.
Can I take this?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Just pull that right up. This looks like some light reading.
Oh, it is. I'm just going to go over it with y'all real fast at a certain point in the presentation.
Thanks, sir.
Sorry, I'll try.
Well, hey guys, I am Garner. I work at Adams IP right around the corner, like literally 2 blocks away from here. And I'm the software guy, so I draft software applications. There's definitely intellectual property in software and artificial intelligence. I'll get into more in a minute about the types. Mainly I'm going to talk about patents, but I'll also mention a little bit about copyrights, trade secrets, not really anything about trademarks. I know that there's maybe some interest in talking about artificial intelligence and copyrights in regards to, can they own copyright? Can they, is there an issue with them taking data sets and creating pictures, potentially shared use doctrine, stuff like that, but that's not the subject. Today I want to tell y'all that y'all can protect your intellectual property. You can protect your software, your artificial intelligence, and that's what we're about to do. So yeah, a little bit about me. I'm a chemistry person. I got into software at grad school at Alabama. Got my PhD in computational chemistry, and that's why I started doing software then. Then I decided I didn't like research, so I went to law school and I became a patent attorney. And I originally did chemistry because I hate writing, and now that is all I do is write. So intellectual property is rooted in the Constitution. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8, they call that the intellectual property clause. Patent attorneys call it the patent clause. It talks about copyrights and it talks about patents. It's even, I think it was James Madison talked about it in Federalist Papers, and that it should be, if authors can protect their copyrighted material, their works of art, then inventors should be able to protect their inventions. And they put it in the Constitution. Trademarks didn't come around until about 90 years later. In 1870, I think, they decided maybe they should be able to protect your mark for your particular product. And then trade secrets didn't really come around until, at least get protection, until the 1970s in the States, and then the 2016 federally. They passed acts for that. But people are definitely using them now, and it's especially good for software, trade secrets. I'm not going to talk about trademarks, because trademarks are not important for y'all unless you're protecting the name. It's not going to protect the idea, just the name or maybe the symbol, okay? A lot of people like to talk about trademarks. They think trademark protection, oh, it's protected. No, it's going to protect the name, maybe the symbol for your, like an image mark, but it's not going to actually protect your idea. That's what patents do. Copyrights don't protect your idea. They protect the creative expression of an idea. And trade secrets technically don't protect the idea either. They protect confidential data that may include the idea, but that doesn't actually give you protection for the idea itself. So, patents, they protect the function, and they give the patent owner the right to exclude. This is important. It's kind of, in a way, you can think of it as a government-granted monopoly, but it's really a government-granted monopoly for a specific idea if they believe that it is patentable, meaning that it is novel and non-obvious. Also, it has to be patentable subject matter, which you'll hear me talk about a lot, and you have to satisfy the written description. That's the problem, though. In software, you don't want to tell everybody necessarily what your code does, right? Especially if you're not going to get a patent on it, because you have to write very clearly how to do exactly what you do. And if you don't get a patent on it and it's published, then everybody's going to do what you're doing, and you're SOL when a big fish comes in and does exactly what you want to do, right? So there's ways that we can get around that, and one of those ways is we can ask not to publish. So the only problem with that is if you want to file internationally, you can't do that. But there's also strategies that we can use to get around that as well. But generally, the best, if you're worried that you might not get a patent, and you should be, because the Supreme Court is requests not to publish on patent. Okay. Now, copyright law protects creative, as I said before, creative expression, and it could be of an idea. So maybe your graphical user interface, maybe things like that could be patentable, but or not patentable, copyrightable. But trying to protect your idea based off of your creative expression is a no-go. Yeah, you're just going to, someone's going to say, oh, I see what their idea is, I'm just going to do it differently, create, like, instead of, I don't know, steampunk, I'm going to do anime style, and suddenly your idea is no longer protected. It was just a creative expression of that idea using steampunk instead of anime as your artistic, embodiment of whatever your graphical user interface or something like that. And it can provide some protection from like non-literal infringement. So for instance, creation of clone software. If someone creates your exact software, but they use the code, they're able to program it differently, and so it's not the code that, because you're an author. When you type out this code or have AI draft this code for you, you are the author. Okay, so that is why you can get a copyright on your code. Well, if someone, or say you're a GUI, well, if someone creates a different code that has the exact same GUI, you can actually have copyright law, you can have some copyright protection there. So that's an instance where you can have some sort of cloning. Trade secrets, okay, again, trade secrets. Trade secrets are great for instances where there might be subject matter eligibility issues. So Supreme Court, in their infinite wisdom, said that you cannot get a patent on something if it's just using a basic computer system. So say that you have software on a computer, they're just going to remove all the computer elements, the processor, the display, the power supply, the non-transitory computer readable medium, all that kind of stuff, their hard drive. They're just going to look at the process steps, the method steps for your software. And they're going to say, well, this is an abstract idea, therefore you can't have a patent. That goes back to the subject matter eligibility. So sometimes if you talk to your patent attorney and they're like, well, I don't know if we can get around it because it's a business method that is just straight business. Any type of business method, you might say, okay, well, we can't get a patent on that, but what we might do is we might keep that part trade secret, and and that might be on the server side, so no one has access to it. But then the GUI, we might try to go for some sort of patent, or for a way that the software works on the client side. Maybe it's downloaded on the computer, maybe we go for a patent there, but we keep some of the trade secrets. So it's a hybrid approach, and that's often what I kind of recommend in software, is some sort of hybrid approach. Now, as soon as someone submits a patent on your trade secret, or 18 months after, and it's published, it's no longer a trade secret, because it's only a trade secret so long as it's not published. So it's not the public. So that's like one of the issues with trade secrets. Another issue is it's only good, it only lasts as long as it is confidential. Now, the good thing about that is it could last forever. So let's say you come up with something and it's really like novel and no one else is doing it and you want to keep it a trade secret, you can just keep it indefinitely a trade secret. But and copyrights, they last the author's life plus 70 years or 120 years if it's anonymous, right? And then patents, they only last for 20 years for utility and 16 years after for a design. So yeah, go ahead.
So for trade secrets, are trade secrets protected by NDAs? So like,
yes.
If I sign an NDA
Yeah, that's like trade secrets are essentially just a whole bunch of agreements and contracts that say you aren't supposed to spill the beans here. But yeah, again, a hybrid approach, and again, if your trade secret can last indefinitely, trade copyrights and patents, they have a limited lifespan. So yeah, now that we've decided though, let's say that you talk to your patent attorney, and they say, yeah, you want to keep this part of trade secret, but you want it to be a patent, because this is going to be given to the client. Someone could easily reverse engineer this, maybe not necessarily easily, but they're going to get the code, and then once they have the code, then your idea is no longer going to be protected necessarily. Even if you copyrighted it, your code won't be protected. Your idea won't be protected. Your code might be protected under copyright, but your idea is not, and that's really important. You remember the idea. It's not necessarily the code. The code is just a way that you implement your idea. So you've got your idea. Well, we got to figure out what is your idea? So the USPTO says that, in terms of artificial intelligence, knowledge processing, speech, AI hardware, evolutionary computation, natural language processing, machine learning, vision, planning, control, those are all technologies that are artificial intelligence technologies that you can get a patent on. Some examples: system architecture, so a neural network, including how many layers there are, what the layers, how they process each data set, things like that. That could be patentable. I don't like to use the word algorithms when I'm drafting a patent, but yeah, the algorithms, the method steps, the method, that could potentially be patentable. Products that include AI, so think like autonomous driving vehicles, robots, augmented reality that uses artificial intelligence, that's potentially patentable. Data, so data sets, how you combine data sets, a method for combining data sets, weights, a method for creating weights, that's patentable. You can get a patent on that, and then you can license that to other people. All potentially things that you might not think is patentable, but could potentially be patentable. So we've discovered your idea, or you have, and you've written it all down, and you've contacted us, and you say, hey, I have this idea that I want to patent. What do I do next? Well, next is prosecution. Generally, we say search, but in fastly evolving areas, we don't do search. Not usually. Sometimes we do, but the problem is that patents don't publish until 18 months after filing. And artificial intelligence is evolving so quickly that if I do a search, someone could have filed something 17 months ago, and I'm not going to find it in my search. No matter how many hours I spend on it, it's not publicly available. So, and a lot of times in software, we just say, draft a provisional application, or just a utility application, and go ahead and get your idea out there, because we're a first to file country. It used to be we were first to invent, but in 2012 they changed it to first to file. It's first person in line wins. So then, what type of patent do you want to do? Well, there's three types. There's plant, design, and utility. Okay, a plant is just protects asexually reproducing plants. This is not something y'all are interested in. Even if you were to create
a literal plant, like an avocado.
Yeah, that's an avocado. That's actually the Haas avocado. They're cheap and really fast, but this is not what y'all want. Next, we have design patents. Well, they protect ornamental features. Believe it or not, AI or software can have ornamental features in the user interface. Apple has gotten several patents on user interface designs. I think Google has as well with their Android, or at least Android devices. Maybe Samsung, Samsung has gotten. The user interface is, believe it or not, patentable. So for software, if say you create AI software and has a particular type of user interface that you really like, where you can tell them to combine different types of artificial intelligence that are somehow linked to this, I don't know, overlay of Microsoft Teams or something like that, guess what? That user interface is patentable with the design patent.
Hey,
Yeah.
can I ask you a question about patents in general?
Yeah, sure.
Like when it's the research stage, and you get the research back, how long do you have to have before you decide to pay the rest of it? Like how long would you say?
So how long you've done the research and you filed an application? How long before you actually get the results back from the USPTO?
I was saying, how long do you have to finish the patent before it becomes
Oh, so if you disclose it to the public, there is a 1-year statutory bar. So as soon as you disclose it to the public, you have 1 year to file a patent application, or it becomes in the public domain.
So that's what basically the question I would have is when do software designers here call you in essence of the problem in the process? And the answer sounds like at least no later than 1 year after they put it out in public sometime.
I would say, yeah, it preferably before.
Right.
We could file a provisional application. So USPTO, they care about, so there's reduction to practice, there's conception, and there's actual reduction to practice. They don't actually care about actual reduction to practice. They care about conception. So when you have got this idea and you can tell someone with skill in the art, ordinary skill in the art, how to do it, then you can file a patent on it. And you'll get your first to file priority date over anyone who comes after.
Follow-up question to this. Is there, this is a skeptic in the world, are the big companies in the world basically running idea theft practices in essence, where they're out there researching, constantly seeing an idea and say, oh, somebody didn't file a patent on this, boom, I'm calling on attorneys?
I wouldn't say necessarily idea theft, because if someone didn't file a patent application, they aren't going to know if they filed a patent application or not, remember, 18 months after it has been filed.
Okay.
And it's potentially already patented by them. Just depends on, did you pay the extra money for the USPTO to get to it fast? So it's probably not worth it for them to try to rip off somebody. But I mean, they probably do it, and then what they say afterwards is they go, well, I'll just pay them afterwards, or they're never going to succeed, or they, maybe they filed an application, but they didn't use a patent attorney, or they filed an application and the patent attorney sucks at software applications, and he doesn't know how to get it past the software arguments. They might take that into consideration and be like, chances are this is never even going to become a patent, even if they did file a patent on it. And if it does become a patent, then they will warn us. So they will say, hey, I have a patent that I filed on this, and then they'll say, hey, can we see it? And that you may or may not let them see it, you probably will, at which point they'll, maybe pay you a licensing fee, probably not. They'll probably just be like, we'll see what happens, and then after you get a patent, then maybe they'll actually pay you some sort of royalty or something like that. So it just kind of depends. I don't know, maybe companies are doing that. Probably would be smart for them to do that, right? Because they're the ones with all the money, and they know how hard it is to actually get a patent software. So the art units at the USPTO and software have an average allowance rate of a little over 20%. And the average allowance rate at the USPTO is over 60%. And it has to do with, kind of go back to that conspiracy theory, if you want. In the late thousands, early 2010s, there was a lot of lobbying going on about software and how patents were making it difficult to, for big companies to get anything really done without getting sued. I mean, they're getting sued left and right. You had the Rocket Docket in East Texas, and it was basically you sued and then immediately start litigation, at least much faster than you could in other parts of the country. Wasn't long after that the Supreme Court made a very controversial ruling, Alice, which I talked about earlier. It was 2010, and that's what's made it difficult. Now, it's been 15 years So we have a little bit better of idea how to get stuff through USPTO, but it's taken that long. That decision was so awful that it's taken 15 years for us to get to the point that we can actually start getting software applications through at a higher rate. So, and that was probably because of the lobbying that was going on by Facebook and Microsoft and stuff like that.
Right, stamping down the ability to get patents from off.
Well, it benefited them at first because it invalidated probably 15 years worth of patents, but then it hurt them because then all the stuff that they were filing on was really difficult, so then they started lobbying in the opposite direction. So, yeah. And then, yeah, we got some utility patents. This is really what I was just talking about. Utility patents, they protect your idea, the function of your invention. And in software, yeah, just what I was talking about. And what time is it?
4:52.
Okay, cool. So this is, you have two different times for a first file country. Provisional, think of it as a placeholder application. You're just putting your, you're just getting in line. Think of it as Disney World. You're getting in the normal line. You have someone holding your place, okay? Then you can do the non-provisional application, in which you say, hey, get out of line, I'm gonna get in line. There's another thing you can do. You can pay for expedited review, so the USPTO will actually look at your application within 2 years. And so they'll actually really look at it within 3 to 6 months. And that's sort of like the Genie Pass. I don't know if they still do that in Disney, but that's like the Genie Pass. And so then you can move faster in line and get on the ride quicker. So, but your provisional, never going to be looked at. Utility will be looked at, and it's because the claims. That's really the difference between a provisional and a non-provisional. Now, I gave you those applications. I don't have one. But you can see this is what it looks like. And the reason we're going to talk about it just real quick is because it's important that you know different parts. The back, so the very top is the abstract on that first page, top right. That's not particularly important. It sort of like informs people, you know, and then you're going to have a picture down there and it's sort of going to inform them what the, you know, what, just a picture of what the idea might be, what it might entail. So then you go to the next page, that's further on down, it's one of the figures. All right, so you have a whole bunch of figures, and they're going to have numbers and stuff, and this is one showing like a user interface. Those numbers are used in the specification to help guide the examiner and show in more detail what your invention is. So let's go to the next page. A lot of people underestimate the importance of this part, which is the, hold on, let me see it real quick. See, I don't even know, it's so important. The background. All right, so the background is actually really important because you're telling the examiner all the problems there are out there right now. It's just so hard. But if there was only a way that we could fix this issue, then everything would be better. That's what the background is, and that's the first thing the examiner is going to look at. They're actually even going to read it because sometimes people will tell them, be like, hey, yeah, here's some pieces of prior art that you can use against me. Don't ever do that. Okay? Some people think that you should. Do not do that. But you do tell them the problems that are out there, and if only, accordingly, there's a need in the art for a system and method that fixes this issue. Okay? Then you go to the summary. What the summary is just a brief description of what the invention actually does. And the examiner will always read that too. So it's important to include features. Now, maybe not necessarily examples, because those are included in the detailed description. And the detailed description is after the drawings, and that's where we get into a lot of detail. And for software applications, I have to get into a lot of detail, because if I don't, I will get a 101 rejection, and I will get a 112 rejection. 101 is subject matter eligibility. That is their favorite thing to give software applications, and they are the hardest rejection to get over. Go ahead.
So, how big is this group that does the AI data patents? Is it like, are you a lawyer that works with the?
Oh yeah, I'm a lawyer.
No, but I meant like, who are reviewing these?
The examiners.
Oh, the examiner, patent examiners at the
Like, what are the
USPTO.
qualifications to be a patent? Is it complicated?
Bachelor of Science, preferably, so if they're in computer science, or they'll this method in software art units, which is, I call the 3620s, which is basically 3620 to 3629, which they have tens of examiners in each one of those numbers, and they all specialize subcategories and other things. Yeah, they have a lot of examiners.
Do they use AI to work through these things?
Not yet. They are using AI to sort them, which has resulted in some questionable sortings. I've had a products patent result in getting put in a chemical art unit, which was aggravating because they can't switch them around once they've been sorted. But yeah, they are starting to, government, yeah. Yeah, so, they are starting to use AI at the USPTO. Yeah, but not to do office actions yet. Let's see, what was I talking about? Yeah, so prosecution, challenges. Okay, 101. So once we submit this application, it's going to go to the USPTO, and one of the real reasons that we have to have huge disclosures and detailed description is 101, subject matter eligibility. They're going to give us a 101 rejection, and I'm going to have to add some stuff to the claims. And the claims are at the very bottom, at the very, very end, and it's going to look like weird language to you because it uses said and stuff like that, and it's just weird after it's just weird. And that's what they examine. That's what the examiners look at. The way to think of it is property. You have your description of your property boundary lines, and that describes your intellectual property. So in an abstract space, that is what you have. That is your property. Okay? They have to look at the detailed description when they're evaluating your claims, and you can't add new material unless it's in your detailed description. So when I write this thing, I have to write it with everything you've ever thought of that could potentially go with this idea, so that when the examiner comes back and gives me a 101 rejection, that I can add that to the claims. Now 112 is, they can get around their 101. Now 112 is enablement, meaning that did I disclose it in enough detail that one with ordinary skill in the art would actually be able to recreate this idea. And so that's where the 101 and 112 kind of go hand in hand. The 112, I have to disclose it, all this information, tons of details that I can then put it in the claim. So let me skip through this real quick because we're running out of time. This is probably something you might be interested in. An AI cannot be an inventor by itself. Now, it can help you invent something, but you have to substantially contribute to the idea to be considered an inventor. This same goes for you're working at a company. Maybe the manager wants to be put on the application. Nope. If he did not invent it, if he did not conceive it, he will not be on that patent. And if he is, and it's later figured out that he didn't really contribute to the invention, the patent can be invalidated. So yeah, the AI cannot be an inventor, but the human must, the person, must contribute significantly to the
So I've got a
idea.
question on this, like if you were going in and putting in your prompt and it writes an article for you or something along those lines, but I then ask it to link to an article or something like that, and I can get that article and I can see it's basically kind of summarizing that article in essence. Does the company that has that article on the site have a claim against the AI or if I go publish that information, let's say I did it word for word from what the AI generated, do I have a problem with that website?
So that's copyright law,
Right.
And I would say that I am a very liberal when it comes to the fair use doctrine, and so it's going to depend on the court that you're in. Me personally, I like the liberal interpretation of it, meaning that okay, you took this and you summarized it. Well, it was fair use. They didn't copy your article word for word. They summarized your article and wrote it. It's new. It's a new creation. Therefore, fair use. Same with artwork. Say you take various pieces of artwork and you combine them and you create something that's new. You can see similarities, but it's not the same artwork. Fair use doctrine, meaning that it is not copyright infringement. Now, some people. It's especially artists, strongly disagree with that. But if, I don't know, it gets to a point where you have to be like, you want progress, or do you want complete stagnation because, you know, people are upset that they got their article summarized, or that their artwork was used in combination with other artwork to create something entirely new. So it just depends on how much it looks like. You know, again, it's very subjective. It's not objective. It also depends on how good your lawyer is arguing the copyright infringement case in front of a jury. So it's just a whole lot of that.
And I have no concern about ever being sued for something like that, but I do think that it's applicable to like everything that's going on here. It's just like a simple case study.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it's not an easy answer. It's one of those gray areas that, and I know we don't like that, right? We like most of the time, I like, a lot of the time, I like a clear answer for something like that. But because when you start putting it in jury's hands, it could be one group of people agree and another group of people don't agree. And so it's like, what is really the result? You're not getting any finality there. But that's just how it is right now, and it's going to be sort of like piracy is streaming something from a site, technically copyright violation, copyright infringement. They aren't going after anyone because it might not be, because you're not necessarily making an exact copy of the work. So nobody's going after them, they're going after people who are downloading the torrents or who are providing the torrents to other people. So, I wanted to get into monetization. Don't really have a lot of time. Once you have a patent, you can monetize it. You can do licenses. The licenses can be exclusive, non-exclusive, and sold. Non-exclusive is basically like, I'm going to give it to a whole bunch of people. Usually it's fewer fees. Exclusive means the patent owner can't even use it. That's going to be a much larger fee. And sold license is where the inventor and whoever they're licensing to can both use it. It's still going to be a large fee.
How much of a potential is that, like to actually license your patent? Like,
how much is it? Or
what kind of potential is there? Like, how do you even go about doing that? Like, so you get your patent, you get it approved. Okay, but then what? Like, so you have, okay, cool, I have a patent.
You sue people.
Now what?
Yeah. So you send them a cease and desist letter. You're like, oh, okay, you're doing exactly what I'm doing. Cease and desist, or I'm going to sue you, take you to court, and you're going to pay a boatload of money when you're found, that you infringe my patents.
Got it.
And I mean a boatload. I mean, we're talking millions of dollars, maybe even hundreds of millions. And Samsung versus Apple was a case of $1 billion. So it's a lot of money. So people will often be like, and it's at least $1 million to litigate. People don't want to pay that. So they're going to just more than likely either tell you to go screw yourself because they're not doing the same thing, and they'll maybe even show you that, or they'll make an agreement with you for some sort of like non-exclusive license. So you're making some passive income.
I mean, the patent holder has to do something too to go do that, right? Like
That's what Hunter does. That's not what I do.
That's Hunter's part. Alright.
I like it when people are happy to see me. So inventors come, they're like, I got this cool idea. I'm like, all right, sweet.
Yeah. Fair enough.
But that's what Hunter does. It's business. It's the business side of it.
Yeah.
Then royalties and licensing fees. Yeah, there's also licensing agreement fees. Okay, so you might have a royalty. You all know what a royalty is. Say net profit, and you get a certain percent of it. Okay, licensing fee could be something like, all right, but I want $1 million up front to have this license, and then in 3 years, or every year, I want an additional $500,000, or there could be milestones. Say after you've sold X amount of product or made this amount, then I get X. The percentage goes up. For the royalty, there could be like a milestone there. So there's different ways that you can monetize these patents. And if you think of them as a way to, it's sort of monopoly, but really a way to exclude. And that's why you can license it, right? It's because you're deciding not to exclude that person or that person. And so that's why you're able to really do this.
Can a religious organization write an article? You copy that article, put it into your document. Is that a violation?
Not if you cite it. I mean, you remember, there's got to be. Are you going to do the entire article,
No,
or
no,
just
just
a
maybe
paragraph?
5 paragraphs out of 20.
5 paragraphs. Probably what I would do is I would limit that to just maybe 1 or 2 paragraphs and sort of like have AI summarize the rest of it, and then put it in quotes and put a link to it, so a citation to it, and then I mean, that's fair use for sure.
That's very
Yeah, it would be fair use, but you want to limit it. You don't want to take too much. So when you start taking a huge portion of it and you don't, attribute that to the original author, that's when you can get in trouble. But chances are they're just going to send you a takedown order, and you'll just take it down or just rewrite the section. So, and that's even if they care. They might not even care. They might see that and oh, whatever, they're a nonprofit or something like that. It's fine. Or they might see that and they give you a call. They might even have an attorney involved. They might say, hey, you took a large amount here. Could you, but you didn't attribute it to us. Could you attribute it to us? So there's copyright. It's generally not a ton of money unless it's willful infringement. You can show that there's intent to infringe. And, there's a lot to it. It's not nearly as much money as patent infringement. So.
If they're a smart marketer, they say, hey, would you mind linking back to me? That'd be great. Like, that's fine. We appreciate you mentioning this. That's what I would do.
Yeah.
Like, hey, thank you. Can you link back to my website? And like, I would be thankful for it, actually.
Yeah.
So it's like, different angles.
Yeah. So, but yeah, patents is collateral. So patents are property. You can use these as collateral to get business loans, or you can use these as collateral to get investors. Now, valuing can be a problem. I'll get into that in a little, just like 2 slides. But you can also use it for strategic ventures. Your patents, so say there's a company that really likes your IP. Maybe it's, let's just say, for pie in the sky, it's Microsoft. They really love the way that your invention works. And they were actually doing something similar, but you reached out to them and were like, hey, I think there might be some sort of concerns here because I have this patent. And they might reach out to you and be like, hey, I see what you're saying. Would you like to meet up? Maybe we could do some sort of joint venture. And y'all start working together. They have more resources. Next thing you know, y'all are filing patents together. Your business explodes. Microsoft maybe ends up buying it. That can actually happen. And then valuing patents, it's hard to tell what the value of a patent is going to be. There's a lot of factors. There's a company, IPCG, that I work with up in Massachusetts, I believe. That's what they do, but essentially they just come up with these proprietary formulas and put a lot of risk. So they say, here's the market. We're going to devalue this application based off of the amount that we think of the market that you're going to capture. And then there's the risk in that, a whole bunch of risk. And so eventually if the market is like 500 million, it might end up being, they might say your patent is worth realistically maybe 40 million or something like that because of all the risk. And that's essentially how it's done. It's just a guessing game. But if you want to actually use this collateral and get a loan, you got to do that. And it's not cheap. So
How is that value determined?
it's just they take.
Arbitrary?
Say that again. What?
Yeah, how's that value?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's sort of like a proprietary process where there's sort of like, hey, I think that for this particular market area, the market cap is 500 billion for this entire area. So say autonomous vehicles and displays in autonomous vehicles, okay? And they'll say, but yours is only applicable to maybe 50% of that market. Okay, and then they'll say, and there's other technology out there that's similar but not exactly the same, and maybe they're going to capture X% of the market. And then they're going to say, but there's a chance that this could be IPR and your patent could be invalidated. So there's some risk there, and there's other risk, and so that's how they get to that a bit. So it's just a guessing game. There's no way to like really say for sure what the value is. But that's.
There's ever a transaction, you come up with your valuation, somebody else comes up with their valuation, and you get together and figure it out and see if you can make a deal happen.
Yeah, and that's kind of how you get to it when you're trying to do collateral and. But yeah, that was a quick overview. We're a little over. Sorry, guys.
That was great. Thank you very much. When I handed this out, like really the purpose was to show you like how important
important it is that y'all give us, if you're going to do a patent, give us a massive disclosure. Tell us like everything, because that is going to fix a lot of the issues, the 101 and the 112. 102 and 103, I can get around those, but 101 and 112, I cannot help you if you don't help me.
So how much more